Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this event today. I'm so excited to introduce our guest speaker today, and that is Dr. Eunice Gwanmesia. She is a transformative leader and a passionate advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. As the founder and CEO of Unity Solutions, she collaborates with organizations to cultivate inclusive cultures that foster innovation and a true sense of belonging. As an award-winning bestseller author of The Power of Your Identity, Dr. Gwanmesia is also a sought-after international speaker, nurse educator, consultant, and coach. Her mission is to empower individuals to embrace differences and guide leaders into creating workplace cultures where everybody thrives. Without further ado, Dr. Eunice Gwanmesia.
Wow. Thank you.
I'm excited.
Thank you so much, Miss Darlene, for that kind introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. It is a blessed day to be with you all. Listen, thank you for being here today. And thank you to Bucks County Association of Realtors. And thank you, Pam, for opening up so graciously and with such warm energy. I am honored to be with you all today. And thank you for the DI committee for this collaboration and support and the process of getting us here today. I look forward to this great conversation. And this month is Fair Housing Month, but it's also Celebrate Diversity Month. So it is an honor to be in this collaboration and talking about the business case for fair housing today. So I thank you all. So without further ado, let's get right into the conversation, right? Talking about the business case for fair housing. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So if you we're gonna hopefully by the end of today's presentation meet these objectives. Understand the importance of housing through the historical, legal, and economic lens. I would also like for us by the end of this presentation to explore how inclusive practices would help us improve our outcomes, not only for our clients, but for our business. And obviously learn the tools to help us identify those hidden blind spots, the biases that we have as individuals, as well as the unconscious biases that we may project to our customers, and also to help promote equity in real estate. Next slide, please. So if you all would just allow me for a second or a minute to share my little journey as an immigrant or to share a little portion of my story, I would be honored. So I came to this country back in 1994 as an immigrant student at Delaware State University here in Slower Lower Delaware, as they call it, right? So I got here not knowing that I would even ever own a home. So I went to school to become a nurse at Delaware State University, and I did that, graduated in 1998. After graduating, I got pregnant, right? I wanted to have a baby, but I was living in an apartment, and it dawned on me that I didn't want to have my child in this apartment. So my husband and I decided to buy a home. Didn't really understand what that all entailed. And when we started on that journey, it was a lot more to it than I would have imagined. The idea of buying a home where I come from is you get a loan and you purchase a home and that's it. I never heard of a mortgage, let alone paying a home over a 30-year period. That was a culture shock for me. So we went on this journey. Thank God for the realtor that we got. Until today, I will forever honor her and celebrate her. So the challenges that we would come to face are challenges like understanding the housing system, securing, financing, and navigating cultural differences. So trust was very crucial in this journey that we undertook. Having someone who would exercise empathy like our real estate agent did, and having some sense of cultural sensitivity, awareness, and competence was very vital in that process. So these are the things that I learned through this process. Having someone who did not only worry about getting that paycheck at the end of closing, but someone who will walk that journey with you all the way. So let me share with you how this realtor helped us. We were immigrants. We only had what you call a green card. I'm sure you all know this. Being permanent residents, most of your lending institutes would only give us a loan at a very high interest rate. So thank God for this realtor. She understood the business and understood the market. What did she tell us? She said, go ahead and go for it. I will walk you through the process. Get the interest loan, and after you become citizens, I will work with you to get it, refinance your home so you can get a lower interest rate. And she did. So after we became citizens, she helped us refinance. Not only that, she stayed with us until when the interest rates went lower again, she helped us again refinance twice. So we went from a 30-year mortgage to 25 and down to 20. And I'm happy to report that we ended up paying our home in less than 20 years. And today we own our home, nothing owed on the home. As immigrants, first-time home buyers. So as professional realtors, why am I sharing this story? I share that to say when you get a real estate person who values the success of their clients, it can go a long way, not only for the client, but for your business. And that is why we're here today. So I wanted to share this so it can be a segue to our conversation for today. So thank you for allowing me to share the story. Next slide, please. So before we actually get into our conversation, often we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, when in fact we use it so loosely and we use it interchangeably and forgetting that they're really distinctly different. So if you can do me a favor, please put in the chat one word that defines diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Your definition of diversity, one word. And one word of equity, one word for inclusion, and one word for belonging. Just type it in the chat, how you define it. Because sometimes, depending on what organization you're in or what context you're speaking about, everyone defines these words differently. So just put it in the chat, your definition of each of these words. One word, please. I see some people, Marsha says equality, Charlotte says diversity is cultural difference, and someone says respect, fair, differences, equality, welcoming. Absolutely, I love this. And you're all right. Equality, inclusivity. Thank you all so much. I love it. Welcoming. And nowadays with our recent government, everybody's changing these words, right? We're trying to change them depending on what organization you're in, whether you're getting funding from the federal government. Everyone is trying to change the terminology, just afraid of losing funding. But that's the world we're living in right now, right? That's another conversation for another day. Thank you all so much. So in summary, diversity is the how. How are you doing? I mean, it's the who. Who are you doing business with? It's the who and the what. That is diversity, right? Who is the differences. What are you going for? What population are you dealing with? Who are you recruiting? Who are you working with? What are the differences within that population you're dealing with? Equity is that fair treatment, the access, giving everyone access to those resources, access to those lending organizations, access to those opportunities. Are you being fair to the people that you're working with? Inclusion is that intentional behaviors. You've decided you're going to work with a certain population, a certain group of clientele or customers. You brought them in from those different backgrounds. Are you bringing them to sit on the lunch menu? Or are you bringing them to all be on the dance floor? Or if you're talking about your organization at Bucks County, are you bringing them to be within your association on the lunch menu? or you're bringing them to all have a voice at the table. That is inclusion, those intentional, purposeful behaviors, being inclusive and belonging is that psychological well-being. Because when you act with that inclusive behavior, bringing everyone to the table, then they feel safe, they feel wanted and needed, and a sense of acceptance and respect, making everyone feel welcome. So this is how we define these terms. Next slide, please. Now, this is something that is more of a reminder for you all because you guys are experts in this, the Fair Housing Act. You are the expertise. You know about this more than I do. But understanding the legal framework is very crucial for you as real estate professionals, not only to ensure compliance, but to promote equitable practice. So the Fair Housing Act was a landmark law that was passed back in 1968. I believe it was just 1 week after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., right? And why was this even put into law? It was designed to eliminate discrimination in housing, to ensure people were not just denied a home because of their race, their color, religion, or national origin. And in 1974, the protections were extended to include sex. And by 1988, they were further expanded to cover disability and familial status. Why does this even matter? It reflects a growing awareness of barriers that many communities still face even till today, and the commitment to fairness, dignity, and equal opportunity for housing. I wanted to bring this up just as a reminder, but I know that all of you are very familiar with this because this is something that you do on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So let's look at the current challenges in housing equity. If you look at the slide, you can really see clearly that white Americans have the highest home ownership rate at 73.8%, followed by Asian Americans at 63%. There is a big drop when you get to Hispanic Americans at 49.8%, and Black Americans, it's even a further drop at 45.9%. If you think of immigrants who face very unique challenges, as of 2023, immigrants headed about 16% of all US households, but yet they're less likely to own homes compared to US-born American citizens. Why? Because there are barriers like limited access to credit, unfamiliarity with housing markets, and language differences. So if you think about it, it is not really the income that we all make. It's about the long-standing barriers like access to financing, appraisal barriers or biases, and generational disadvantages. So if we really want to talk about what is happening, the work that you do as real estate professionals matter so much because you're helping people navigate a system that hasn't always worked equally for everyone that wants to be homeowners, either for the first time, second time, or third time, but most importantly, for the first time. So I wanted to point out these challenges because we need to be thinking as we go out to help others acquire homes, just like you did your first time. Put yourself in their shoes where you once were, that, hey, I have to help this individual acquire a home just like I did. But when you understand the challenges, then you can truly go to work, not just for that paycheck, but for what you want that person to meet their outcome. And you truly do it from the bottom of your heart. Next slide, please. So with these challenges in mind, as a professional in this field, your role is powerful. But what do you do to help your clients? And how do you do it? Number one thing you should do is build trust. And how do you build that trust? It begins with self-awareness, authenticity, and building trust starts with that Self-awareness, because if you're not self-aware, how can you build relationships? What they now call emotional intelligence, right? When you're emotionally intelligent, then you can really understand how to build connections and build those relationships. Because in this business, you have to be able to build relationships and manage people. When you do that and be able to empathize with people, putting yourself in their shoes, there you can truly build relationships. When you build relationships, business marketing becomes a common thing, because people can relate with you and they build trust. When you build trust, business becomes second nature, because what you're doing, you're not just guiding transactions, you're helping people feel seen, heard, and respected. And equity truly starts with trust. When you have that, the next thing you should do in your role is helping clients understand the process and what their rights are. I just shared with you my story. I own a home today, and that is wealth, because my realtor was able to help us as immigrants own our first home in 1999. Today, I own a property that I've lived in since 1999, fully paid, and I can leave it for my children and my children's children. If she had not been there, I would not be in that position. She understood my culture. She understood my beliefs. And we can do the same for those that we serve intentionally and develop that cultural competence, which is an ongoing process. We learn the do's and the don'ts of the communities and the people that we serve. We don't have to know the culture completely, but we need to be aware of the nuances, the cultural differences, and the beliefs of those that we serve, because we want to, not just because we want that check at the end of closing. We also want to speak up against the biases that we see and promote that fair access to opportunities and the lending, the finances, whatever resources we can afford to give access to our clients so that they can make the best decision to own that home, to fix that credit so they can eventually own that home, because we know that owning a property or home is building generational wealth. Taking time to learn that culture. I think it's Harris. We should take the time to learn the culture of the group you wish to work with. Absolutely. And that is absolutely true. And Elaine says, lack of real estate and mortgage professionals who speak the necessary language. Absolutely. You go in and you learn about the people that you're serving, goes a long way. Because when you have that network, they say your network is your net worth. Definitely. You need to know who you're dealing with. So equity in real estate isn't just about a side conversation. It's central to your impact. It's your influence. It's so powerful. So use it. All right, use it. There's a difference between building equity and equality. So let me have you guys type in the chat the difference between equity and equality, because we confuse that at times. Let me see what your thought process is. Put in the chat the difference between equity and equality. Equality is equal rights across different groups. That's from Omar. All right. Do we have any more? Equal rights across differences. Equality is offering everyone the same thing, from Teresa. Equity is realizing that different needs and circumstances exist and meeting them where they are. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me give one simple way I define it. So equality is giving everybody the same thing, right? Equity is meeting people where they are, like Teresa said. If I came here today, or if I walked into your office at Bucks County and say, I brought everyone a small size t-shirt because I was just excited to get to meet everyone, would that small size t-shirt necessarily fit everyone? Absolutely not. But if I came in and asked everyone what size you each wear and brought your exact size that would fit you, that is being equitable, because then I'm giving you the right size that would fit you, right? That is equity. Equality on the other side is giving everyone the same thing. Or if we went to go pluck a mango from a tree and we had tall and short people, giving everyone the same size ladder is equality, but that's not equity. Equity is when I give the short person the size of the ladder that would help them get to that mango, and giving the tall person the size that will fit them. So that is the simple difference between equity and equality. Thank you guys so much. You need to give yourselves a round of applause. On to the next slide, please. So what is the business case for fair housing then? We pretty much just talked about it, right? So when you are really going out there and building these relationships, you're really expanding your market reach. When we talk about housing, it's not just a moral and legal obligation. It's really a smart business move. Word of mouth goes a long way. If we do right by our clients, by default, our businesses will do well, because word of mouth goes a long way, right? So when you build trust with diverse communities, you're going to reduce that legal and reputational risk, because you're not going to run into issues of racism, issues of discrimination, or anything like that. When you make your clients happy, they are going to go out there and spread the word. You're going to drive your long-term economic growth, because you end up with a larger network, you end up with the word spreading, you end up with more referrals, and your business will grow by default. That is really the business case. When you go out and fight for your clientele, they will fight for you. It's just as simple as that. So it is worth being inclusive. It is worth going that extra mile for your clients, because it will build up your business. It is just as simple as that. All right, next slide, please. So at this point, we are going to look into this case study. I believe Anne-Marie already put the case study in the chat. So we'll break out into our groups of about 4 to 5 people. I see we have about 30 people online right now. So we'll break up into about groups of 4 to 5. In our groups, you're going to delegate a spokesperson. That person will come back when we come back into the main room. We'll give a report on what you discussed. If we have time, each group will report. If we don't, maybe just 1 or 2 groups will report on your findings. And then we will go into the inclusive practice strategies and close the presentation. It just depends on how much time we have when we come back to debrief on this case study. So Anne-Marie, if you want to go ahead and put up the next slide. And I believe this is in the chat as well, right? Then we can.
I just placed in the chat for everybody the case study that you see reflected. I am going to, hold on one second. I am going to put up for everybody the instructions. I also placed the instructions in the chat for everybody to open up.
And what you want to talk about is, what are the biases or assumptions that might unintentionally affect the interaction between Amara and the real estate agent? What are some inclusive practices that the agent can use to support Amara? And what tools or community partnerships might help her feel more informed and empowered? Like I said earlier, designate someone to write down your solutions. And then when we return into the main room, we will share those insights with the rest of the group and see what we came up with.
All right, I am going to enable the breakout rooms. You will see a pop-up window that comes up, and please select it to go into your rooms. Thanks, here we go.
So are we back?
Hi, just checking from Dr. Gwanmesia. If you
Are we
can
back?
hold. Yep,
Are we 5 minutes over?
5 minutes
It
is
was
up.
quick.
That was quick.
That was quick. We only got to one question.
Right.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness. All right. So we can talk about the one question, or just go over it as a whole. So if people can unmute, let me see. How are we doing on time, Anne-Marie?
We are doing great. You have about 20 minutes.
Okay. So we can unmute, and how many teams groups did we have?
We had 6 rooms that were open. 5,
rooms.
I'm gonna do 5. So rooms, I'll tell you, don't do room number 3. That was speak for staff.
Okay, so we have 5 rooms total.
5 rooms in total, you got it.
Okay, let's just have 3 rooms share. If there's any, or if there's anything that is the same from other groups, then maybe we can just do 2. Let's have 3 rooms share first, and then if the other 2 rooms have anything different, then they can share. So if the team leads for the 3 rooms can just unmute and share, please, what their findings were.
I can go for room 1.
Thanks,
So
Darlene.
we pretty much only got through the first question, but it answers some of the other ones. So the group talked about not making assumptions, to ask questions, like what the person's needs are. And just because there's a language barrier doesn't reflect on their intelligence. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Explain your experience to develop trust. Explain the steps, and perhaps read those out. And securing a translator or a family member that might be able to help with translation to make communications clearer.
I like that. Even because there's a language barrier, it doesn't reflect the level of intelligence. And that really strikes a point with me, because if I may share real quickly, when I first came to Dali, I was told not to apply for a job because I had a very heavy accent. And, you know, as an immigrant, when you first arrive a foreign land, or anybody for that matter, when you're new to any place, that culture shock again, and for someone to look at you in the face and tell you not to apply for a job at a particular institution because of your heavy accent, as though your accent means you're unintelligent. I mean, if you're not proud of who you are, or be strong in your personality, you can very easily give up in life, or give up looking for what you came here to, for you, I guess, in search of the American dream, if I may say that. So that is definitely something that, as professionals in the field that you're in, you don't judge people based on their accents, or who they are, what they look like, where they come from, because you just never know. And that is that equity that we're talking about.
Well, I will say, with one of my experiences with one of my clients who were African as well, that I didn't know until after getting them the house and interviewing them for a different program, that because I was Black, he didn't believe I could get him a house.
Yep.
He's like, he did not believe it until after they closed and moved in the house that I could help them secure a house. And I was floored by that.
Absolutely. So these are preconceived notions, because someone telling me that, I thought those were predeterminants to a job opportunity, but that's just preconceived notions that people have. Just like someone will look at your name and think, oh, I cannot pronounce that, or because you come from a different place. That is just what they have in their mind. But it takes these interactions and getting to know people. And it really has to start with you deciding that you want to know about someone else's culture, to go on that journey, to really start knowing what values and beliefs that they exist. Great conversation. Thank you all so much. Yeah, next group.
I don't know which group I was in, but we answered the first question. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Harris.
Okay. We answered the first question basically pretty much the same, in terms of making sure they understand the process and be patient. But we also included to stay away from real estate jargon, using words that they may not understand that we may be more familiar with. And also, don't make an assumption about affordability just because basically they mentioned that they might want to, something to do with finances. Don't just assume that they have financial issues, or they may not be able to afford the property. And to be patient.
Absolutely. I like the idea of being patient, and the jargon. Coming from a healthcare background, sometimes we all tend to use our own jargons based on the fields that we come from, forgetting that we're dealing with the lay person and doesn't necessarily understand our jargons, acronyms and all of that. So we really need to try to stay away from that and break things down and clarify words and statements that sometimes our clients don't really understand, and maybe provide literature in different languages as well, and things that would really be at the level of our clients to help them understand and make informed decisions. So you're definitely right about that. Thank you so much. Next group.
Yes, Dave Hudson from Group 5. We were, it's pretty much the same. We just added or said it a little differently. For the buyer consultation is very important. You're spending time with the potential buyer and you're building that relationship. And you're asking of course, you're asking questions, but you're getting to know the person wants and needs. And not only are you building that relationship, but at the same time, you find out if they're comfortable with you bringing in additional help if need be. So we may look for additional realtors or realtors that you can actually look up for people with maybe additional languages or additional interests. And also, if we would include maybe local churches that are primarily Ghana attendees or community centers or something like that. But again, of course, with the permission with the potential buyer, but you want to just incorporate as many pretty much tools as possible and opportunities as possible, especially if you don't understand the culture. Because we don't want to make, as Harris said, we don't want to make that assumption that says, oh, this person's from Ghana, let me just put them in the mix with all the other Ghana people that I know. We want to know, what the particular best interests or the needs of that buyer. So don't make assumptions. That buyer consultation is going to be very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you do want to understand the culture, like we've said already, but you also want to know who the decision maker is within that culture. Sometimes you get into a culture, it's not necessarily the husband or the wife. You need to figure out who are the decision makers, but also getting that extent, sometimes if it's a community living type or community or population, you want to know, sometimes do you have to go to the elders, you just have to really understand the culture and the values and beliefs of that population or community that you're dealing with, and it goes a long way. So you're absolutely right. And then again, there's some ways, communication is a big factor. Here in the United States, it's more of a direct communication. In some cultures, communication is not as direct. One simple example is when you're dealing with a culture where can give an example of my culture. When you're talking to someone in a leadership authority position, like, for example, as a real estate person, I would consider you someone in authority because now I'm your client. If I'm talking to you, I'm not going to maintain eye contact. That's a sign of respect. But you may feel that I'm not smart, or maybe I'm shy, when in fact, I'm just showing you respect. But for an American, maintaining eye contact is an expectation. When you're talking to someone, maintaining that eye contact, or if you're dealing with someone from a Nigerian Yoruba culture, they're not going to extend their hand to you. They'll genuflect to you, greeting you, and that might be kind of, unexpected behavior for you to you for your first time. So understanding different cultural values and beliefs and behaviors really go a long way when you're dealing with different populations. Just that might be just a side thing, but just
no, just to echo what you said, I think a key practice that I used in the past with different cultures that I wasn't familiar with, I would ask, is there anyone else that would benefit from us sharing information with? When you mentioned that, you don't know who's leading it or where the information is coming from or who's the force behind it. So I just always ask, like, who else should we include or let them know or notify?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. All right. I think for the sake of time, do we have any other solutions to add besides what we've already talked about to be respectful of time so we don't run out?
I have a question. This is Charlotte Bradley. Not so much a solution. So how do you manage? I had some clients and there were cultural differences. The wife spoke fluent English, but the husband English was very, very limited. And he got upset because the wife and I were communicating and he felt left out. So he wind up after several months going with a male agent. Still had the same issues, but he went with a male agent. How does agents, what is helpful for agents to understand those cultural differences? Because when I think about what I could have did differently, there was nothing I could do differently because I was unable to communicate with him. So I had to speak to his wife and allow his wife to communicate with him. But because we both were women, he was uncomfortable. That's what the wife told me.
That's interesting. Were you communicating, were they both present at all your meetings, or were you communicating with the wife without the husband, and then she was taking the information to him?
Never. Anytime I deal with a husband and wife or any type of couple, I do a group chat with all of us in there. And when I would discuss a property, when we would leave a property and we would discuss it, we would all be standing there together.
So it sounds to me as though he just maybe had a problem with women. Because I don't
Okay.
understand. I mean, if you are doing the meetings when he was present and he
Mm-hmm.
had English issue, then it sounds to me like an individual problem, because you were having communications with both of them present. And if the wife was merely just translating the communication to him, so it sounds like he has a personal problem. I don't know what you could have done any different. The only other thing I would have recommended would be maybe having the communication translated, but his wife was there and you did all in your power to make sure that you had both of them present while you were having these meetings. So it sounds like he has an ego male issue problem. That would be my.
Okay. He was Moroccan. She was Moroccan. He was Moroccan and his wife was Egyptian. But I I felt bad, not only because I lost the deal after
Did
so
it
much
go
work,
well?
but because I didn't know how to communicate with him other than keep him included in everything. But thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Dr. Gwanmesia, it's Monique. Can I just add something before you move on?
Yes, Monique.
I'm not sure what group I was in, but as far as community resources and partnership, we talked about, along with providing them with like community resources, like encouraging them to go to community activities, just get to know that community that they wanted to live in. But
Yeah.
one note that I wanted to say, being an immigrant myself and then someone who has traveled to Ghana several times, yes, you want to individualize the treatment towards them and making sure you're understanding their culture and what they need, but don't make it so where you're also making them feel like they're different. Because when you're in America, you want to feel like you're here, you want to feel like you belong here, I live here, this is my home now, right? So it's a kind of like a fine line, like differently, yes, so because you want to treat them according to what their needs are, but don't make, because I think sometimes we automatically assume immigrant, oh, I have to do these extra things, or I'm not going to do this. So because you don't want to be too different where now it's obvious that you're treating me differently than another client. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much for adding that, because this is what we call the othering. You don't want to make them feel like the other group. Definitely, you want to make them feel inclusive. So you want to stay away from making them feel like they're different. I don't even know what other way to say this, but you said it so eloquently. Just try to be as inclusive as possible. Make them feel at home. Make them feel welcoming, and just treat them like, yes, they're true Americans, but just providing them the resources to make, you can do this, encouraging them, empowering them, and just really bring them into the fold. Thank you so
Like
much.
one thing that I normally do because I've worked with Ghanaians before, and usually in my first meeting, I usually ask them like, is there a place where you want to meet? And oftentimes it will be like at a Ghanaian restaurant or somewhere, something cultural. And it just gives me an opportunity to kind of be in their space versus them being in my space. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you so much. All right. Anything else to add? If not, then we can move on. Gwen says some cultures discourage men from doing business with women, so it's sometimes better to refer them to ensure you still receive some profit. All right. Thanks. Thank you for that, Gwen.
Yeah, and I did have one quick thing based off of what Charlotte mentioned earlier. Everyone doesn't always have the ability to, or doesn't work as a team. But because I work with many teams, if regardless of where the person comes from, if it's my first time meeting them, I try to either meet at the office or I'll bring a woman with me. because you never know again who leads, and this goes for all cultures. You never know who leads, who's in charge, or who is the influence behind it. So if you can, I always, first time meeting, always have one male, one female. Every time it's yeah, because sometimes I might start off good on the phone, and once I get there, they don't want to talk to me at all. So luckily, I have a partner with me.
Oh, that's awesome. Great feedback. Great feedback.
If I can add one quick thought too, from my purview, because I'm a lender, I have to make sure that they really understand all this paperwork because they're getting ready to sign their life away. And so I usually try to get a family member who speaks both languages or something like that. I'm thinking about my Hispanic clients that I've dealt with in the past. I usually have to get some family member to go over with me to go over to make sure they understand the documents they're signing.
Absolutely.
Guys,
Awesome.
I'm sorry, guys. I thank you for all your feedback. It's amazing. A lot of you don't know my background. I'm Jamaican. My stepfather is Haitian. I was raised very cultural, and these clients were referred by Haitian clients that I had. They referred them out. So I appreciate all the feedback, but it's not because I was making him feel weird. It's just the culture. He got tired of his wife managing stuff. She explained everything, but I was just trying to see what I can do differently. A lot of people told me I can't do anything differently because of the culture, but I wish I would have recognized that I should have let them go earlier on than spending so much time as an agent.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Can we move on? We're good to move on. Anne-Marie, thank you all so much for the great feedback. I think that all these the feedback we can all take and kind of reflect on it, and wish we had more time. This could be ongoing conversation, but I think that with all the continuing education that your organization offers, we can continue these conversations because we never get tired of learning, right? So thank you all so much for delving into this case study, and hopefully we can keep the conversation going. So let's talk about the strategies for inclusive real estate practices. You pretty much have talked about it in that case study. So to kind of just give it another additional, take it a notch up, knowing your community, you just talked about it. And what does that look like? Learning the culture, learning the language, and the historical nuances that you just talked about. Based on some of the things that you just talked about, if we talk about when you're really getting to know your community, sometimes you're having these conversations with your clients. I want to remind us that body language, being mindful of your body language, goes a long way. Your tone of language, your facial expressions, especially when you're dealing with people from different backgrounds and all walks of life. Being mindful of your body language has to align with what you're saying, because often we say one thing, but our body language is saying another. And then building these networks. We already said earlier that your network is your net worth, because as you go out there and build your network, it's going to only continue growing your business. Collaborating with professionals from all backgrounds goes a long way. Using that inclusive language, being mindful of your communication and your marketing. When you're talking, sometimes we just talk and we don't listen to what is being said. Are you communicating to be heard, or you're really communicating to understand? So you really need to practice active listening. Sometimes what I've used personally is I ask myself, I use the acronym WAIT, WAIT. Why am I talking? I wait for my turn to speak and not interrupt whom I'm talking with. When you do that, you can take a step back, wait for your turn and talk. And when we do that, we can often really allow the other person to finish what they're saying, so you can understand the value of what is being said. You can understand what your client is not understanding in the process. And then you can clarify for them or educate them what they need to know so they can make informed decisions. So in being inclusive, it really doesn't happen by accident. It's very intentional. It starts by knowing your communities that you serve. It goes beyond knowing that zip code. It's understanding the cultural norms, the languages, and the history. So listen to understand, but not to be understood. So becoming culturally competent, as I said earlier, it's not really a once and done for all affair. It's an ongoing process. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, you will fail at it at so many points in this journey. But the important thing is getting back up and going, taking those lessons from the failure and improving on the service that you're providing for your clients. All right, so next slide, please. How do we then address the biases? Bias doesn't always look like discrimination. It can be very subtle, and I'm sure you have heard this. We all have unconscious bias. But what is most important is that we identify our personal biases before we can help others. And how do we do this process? When we identify our personal biases, then we can help others when we recognize our own blind spots. We can do this by, one of the ways is using standardized processes, asking clients the same questions, using the same forms, exercising cultural humility. What do I mean by that? You don't have to become an expert in someone else's cultural background, but you must be open, you must be respectful and committed to learning about their values and beliefs and respecting that. And you bring that to practice. That is why I chose to give you this tool today called the PCIHO model, which is a 5-step tool that you can use as you interact with your clients. Use that as a tool to reflect on how you're going to interact with your clients. And I believe Anne-Marie put it in the chat as well. You can use that as a resource to really reflect each time you go out with your clients. This tool, the PCIHO, stands for personal reflection. That's the P. The C is cultural competence. The I is intentional inclusion. The H is holistic client engagement. And O is ongoing accountability. We don't have much time to go over this tool for each of the letters, but I want you to have it because it has each question and how you can use this tool to help yourself really reflect, engage, and build trust with your diverse communities that you're serving. All right, so I wanted you to have that. If we had enough time, we could go through step by step with each of the questions, but unfortunately, we don't have that time. But that is a tool for you to take and keep and use as you continue to engage with your clients. Next slide, please. At this point, thank you all so much for taking this journey with me today. I'd love to open the floor for questions and reflections. Whatever resonated with you today, what challenges and opportunities you see in your own work, and how we can continue to work together. So I'm going to stop here and let's talk about any questions or insights that you may have at this point.
This gave me a little bit more insight in terms of feeling more comfortable working with other cultures and to basically spend a lot more time getting to learn the person and listening more so than just doing the standard, interview with the bar.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for that feedback.
This is Charlotte Bradley. I think it was a very great presentation. I really appreciated you hitting on some things. The benefit I took from it was equity versus equality, and you defining that gave me a better understanding because I don't believe that I quite, grasp that understanding. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate your feedback.
I'll put it to practice this afternoon.
Awesome. Awesome. That's what we want. Thank you so much. Good. Let's get to work.
I just love the fact that all of these ideas and such apply across the board, not just in real estate situations. We all should be practicing giving each other grace, right? When we're interacting with people who may be different from us culturally or any way. And I think that just taking the time to think about those interactions is so important. I thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I have found a lot of value in joining the different organizations and sitting in on the different classes, because no matter how many of them you take, you learn something new from each one.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gwanmesia. I just wanted to say, it was the equity, the differences between equity and equality really stood out for me too. And I try to just keep in the back of my mind that we're all different, but we all deserve the same level at the foundation, like respect and be friendly and kind. So I just keep that in mind to treat everyone like equally, no matter who that person is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was Kofi Annan who said we may all come from different backgrounds, speak different languages, and come from different religions, but we're all of the human race. So if we may just all embrace those cultural differences, we become stronger, more innovative, and creative, right?
Doctor, can I add one more thing?
Yes,
Charlotte
Sharon.
Bradley again. I just wanted to thank you for sharing your story as well. As a child of an immigrant stepfather that has a very heavy accent, I'm very sensitive to how people treat people, you know, from that have accents and from another country, because I watched him be treated badly so many times growing up as a child, and being disrespected and looked down upon and things like that. So I thank you for sharing your story, because we do need great real estate agents like the one you had.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You're welcome. All right. If next slide, please, if we're done with questions. So if thank you all so much for that great insight and feedback. At this point, what I would like for you all to do, I know you said you found some value in this, if you just put one thing, if you found one thing valuable, put yes in the chat. I would like to see if you found one thing valuable today, just type yes in the chat. I see yes is coming. Thank you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Great. So one way you can pay me back today for our time that we have spent together is to let me know what I did so well so I can continue doing it, and what I did not do so well so I can correct it. So if you would please take out your phones and scan the QR code that's on the screen. When you scan that code, it's going to take you to a link. It's a 2-minute survey, and you can put in the BCAR 2025. I'll also actually put the direct link in the chat. I just put in the chat as well. You can click that link or scan the barcode. It'll take you to the survey. It's just 2 minutes. And after you're done completing that survey, just put done in the chat, and then I can just give you my closing remarks, my takeaways for today, and call to action, and we'll call it a day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor. We really appreciate it. I do wish we had had more time. You're right. You told us that in the beginning, and
I know, right?
it's true. It's true. But thank you so much. This has been a terrific hour, and we are going to be sending out the slide deck and the recording to those of you who are here today. And actually, I think we're sending it out to everybody, to the whole membership. So we're really appreciative for your time today. And I ask all of our members who are on the Zoom today to keep your eyes out for future Zoom power hours, because we've got them planned through, gosh, I think Lisa's got them planned through the fall already. So we're really excited about that. So thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Dr. Gwanmesia.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. It's fantastic.
Yes, thank you for showing up, Doctor.
You're
Thank you
welcome. My
so
pleasure.
much.
You're welcome.
Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
You do the same.
Bye.
Bye-bye.